In my previous video I carved the decorative elements of this plaque, so in this one I'll cover a little bit of the text. And I've done some other videos that included carving text, but this one has kind of the added interesting feature of two different fonts that are used on it. And so I'll kind of talk a little bit about those as I go along here. But the main thing to keep in mind for doing text is just to realize that it's not fundamentally anything different from the rest of chip carving, whether you're doing two-sided, three-sided chips, more abstract forms, whatever, that the process, the techniques are all exactly the same. It's just another chip, another piece of black to remove. So as with any curved shape here for this O, you can see it's mostly done by curving the wood underneath the knife, trying to keep a kind of firm but relatively gentle grasp on the knife to allow that to follow the kind of flowing shape of the O here. So for this one, I followed the shape of the U here, but this is just a perfectly straight line from down here to up, so rather than continuing that curve around, I want to carve all the way from the bottom to the top, but then I also want to kind of come over here and start this joined kind of compound cut that starts in the R and the U kind of fuse at the bottom there on their serifs, and now that gets me to that point that I can come do the vertical part of this U nice and straight there, and then finish it off with the flare. I'll cut that a little bit short since kind of similarly that then transitions up into the R, so I'll leave that kind of unfinished at that point. Come back and finish up the U here. Okay, come back into this R, which has a little bit of a curl there at the bottom to come up into the vertical part. So on that one, this isn't a tight point down there at the bottom, so as I draw the knife out toward that fine spot, I kind of give a little bit of a curve just to round that enough that it doesn't look like a sharp edge. Okay, that finishes the first word there with the kind of main font that this uses. So now I'll switch over to the second word, which is in a completely different font, different style of font. So here I'm actually removing the part that forms the letters. The ink, the toner on here is actually what forms the shape of the letters, whereas this is a shadow font, which means I'm removing these black parts that kind of outline around the negative space that forms the font. But again, as I said, it's not really any different. There's nothing to be surprised by or concerned about with something like this. To just continue doing all the same stuff as ever for carving and let the pattern do the work for you. You don't have to worry about making it look like an S. If I just remove all this black stuff on here, then when I'm done, it'll look like an S. I'm going to go ahead and just do the whole outside of the letter here rather than going in and continuing that outline around the contours of the letter. And I kind of want a more contrasty finish for this anyway, because of just kind of the style I'm going for, and the words in general usually call for a higher contrast finish than maybe just a abstract geometric sort of design. But especially with this font that I'm using here with these really fine lines that are required to be visible. You have to see some of these lines to set off the letter and be able to see it clearly. So with that, I'm definitely going to want to make sure that I use a finish on this that has a high contrast that'll get into these little tiny lines and help show it off the way that I need it to. Okay, so now I'll finish up, come in here and do the rest of these inside lines. The one thing I'll say that is different about this font, if you want to say that, than the other one, is that there's just, it takes more time. There's more carving involved to remove all of these. Sorry if I'm moving the wood that I'm carving off camera. It's sometimes here it's a little difficult with the size of the board, and having to kind of flip it around can be a challenge to always make sure it's still in view. So you can see this style of font is kind of more tedious than just the more typical lettering that you might see. This particular section is a little more challenging because there's kind of a weird oblong shape inside the bottom of the S there that doesn't get carved, so I'm kind of carving all around it, leaving the surface of the S as well as this space inside there. And it's all pretty small and light, so hard to kind of see precisely what's going on. This one should be a little more straightforward.